guy was designed in a laboratory for an all-star game.
And Luka, in my eyes, is one of the top 5 most talented players in the league right now.
Embiid cleans it up. Finds Siakam, punches it home.
Yeah, below. AD. Kemba Walker puts it up and in. Oh! Kawhi Leonard. Here comes
Welcome to The Jump. We are live in Chicago, Illinois. Woo! We are in the hometown of Lupe Fiasco and, the host city for the 2020 NBA All-Star Weekend. It's a little bit cold outside, I'm not going to lie. We're about 1 or 2 degrees when we woke up this morning, but here inside the offshore rooftop and bar at Navy Pier, things are heating up. We got a great crowd behind us. I'm Rachel Nichols. I got the host of Pardon in the Interruption, the great Chicago native, Michael Wilbon is in the house. We got the 7-time All-Star, 2-time scoring champ, Naismith Hall of Famer, oh yeah, T-Mac, Tracy McGrady. And I'm going to try my voice, my best Bulls announcer voice. Let's see how I do. And now, from Central Arkansas, 6-time champion, 1994 All-Star Game MVP, the Hall of Famer, Scottie Pippen. That is Chicago love right there. Coming up, we're going to talk about whether y'all should expect a more competitive All-Star game on Sunday because we've had some format changes. We will discuss that a little bit later in the show. First, though, we got to start with what happened last night, guys, because it was a double overtime thriller in Boston. Lou Will led the Clippers 35 points, but wasn't enough to beat the Celtics because they were led by Jason Tatum, dropping 39 points. The Clippers, guys, have lost 3 of their last 4 games on the road. Paul George only playing 15 minutes last night. He left with a hamstring injury in the second quarter. And T-Mac, remember, he had a hamstring injury that caused him to miss 10 games earlier in this season. Are you starting to worry at all about the Clippers as they head into the All-Star break? Because we're about at the 2/3 mark.
Yeah, I'm not worried. However, Paul George needs to really take some time off and heal that hamstring. I have them to win the championship. In order for them to do that, Paul George has to be healthy. With that being said, if this is a lingering injury for him, there's no way they can win a championship. So he needs to take all the time that he possibly can, get fully healed, and they need to stretch together. He and Kawhi,
well, that's
about
the problem.
20
so
games.
You're saying he needs to sit out a little bit and get fully healed, but they haven't played together that much.
I think with the All-Star break and maybe a week or 2 after that, he should be healed. So that's about 3 weeks. If he's not healed by then it's going to be real tough for him to play a stretch of games with the team, get acclimated, and have some sort of chemistry going into the playoffs. But if that's a lingering effect, there's no way they win the championship.
You know what? I went into the season really thinking that Kawhi may be the guy that they have to worry about. He plays every other game. He don't play back-to-back games. So I was thinking that was the concern. But for Paul George, his injuries have surprised me this season. I know he had a lot of injuries over his career. But I thought coming to L.A., coming home, beautiful weather, not as much pressure on you. You're playing with Kawhi. You're playing with other guys, Lou Williams. But he has to take care of his body. But for me, I'm not really worried about the Clippers right now. I still think they got 2 months of basketball to still bond and gel and get guys healthy.
These 9 days are important, 9 days off. A lot of teams have 8 or 9. I think the 8 days off for Toronto are going to be important given the grind they just went through. But for the Clippers, with these injuries, it's interesting because Doc has said, I think he talked about 12 or 15 games together. And Tracy, you were saying something very similar. You want to see a 15 or 18 game stretch where those guys play, and they're going to have to get that. Now, I know we're talking about now 28, 29 games left for most teams. So how long can he take off, or how long can they manage his minutes in game, not aggravate that injury, and still get that unit together like they're going to need to? Because, look, the West is tough. We keep talking about L.A. If the Clippers aren't right, and I'm like you because I think that they will win the championship, but They could get beat by Denver in a second-round match. They could get beat by Utah.
They could face the Lakers in the second round.
They could face if they go 1-4. Absolutely, but I'm like you guys. I mean, they need to be both healthy and playing together, and they need a favorable matchup if they're not.
I want to talk about the winning team as well here. Jason Tatum, 39 points, 9 rebounds in 48 minutes of action. And guys, Tatum's a first-time All-Star on Sunday. He's 21 years old. And Scotty, we think going into the season, oh, Kemba Walker's the leader of that team. He's a vet. But is Jason ready to take over as the leader of this team?
I think he's ready, but I don't think he's there yet. He's definitely shown that he's at that level. Obviously, he's an all-star this season, but I think physically he needs another year. We're starting to see the fruit of his labor right now, but I think he's still a year away from his body fully maturing to really dominate. But you're starting to see it.
Yeah, I agree. It's all about consistency, and that's what's missing. I mean, he has all the tools. It's about consistency, being 21 years old and being, thrown the keys to take over a franchise. It's pretty tough for a 21-year-old. I remember when I was playing for Orlando and being that young and, having to carry that load, take the last second shots, or if it's a 5-point game in 2 minutes, you got to take over the game and lead your team to a victory. That's a lot on a 21-year-old. And as the game goes, the confidence grows with him. And I think next year he'll be ready for anything that the game throws at him.
Look at those comps, Wilbon. Larry Bird and Paul Pierce.
You start throwing Larry and Paul up there. I mean, that's incredible company. One thing I want to ask you guys. The NBA seems to be unlike every other sport in that you need usually one guy. And there will be a lieutenant who is critically important. But can the Celtics do this by committee? Can he share that leadership role with Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Kemba, or does he need to emerge? Do they need one guy, Scotty, to emerge?
I think he's a year away, and that's where I see him separating himself from his teammates. They will know who the obvious best player is on this team. I still think right now Jaylen Brown could have easily been an all-star.
Yeah.
Kemba Walker is an all-star. Let's not forget
we got Marcus Smart on that team, too.
Yeah,
Gordon Hayward.
Marcus Brown, Gordon Hayward. So they got a lot of guys that are kind of right there at the same level. But I do think that Tatum is now starting to separate himself.
Well, he had that almost like arrested development year last year because the Celtics, let's face it, were kind of a mess last year. So he's doing maybe in his third year what we maybe expected from him after his rookie year, and then one more year gets that third-year breakthrough, but in his fourth year because they're just a little bit of a different schedule. I do want to highlight something the Celtics did during the game last night. They ran this mixtape video of Kevin Garnett. This was really cool. The way they announced they are retiring his number 5, and they're going to do it. They put a spotlight up right next to Paul Pierce's number 34. So that's really cool. He was very excited. And later today, KG is expected to have another honor. The Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame is going to announce finalists for the class of 2020. KG, Tim Duncan, nominated for the first time this year, and of course the late Kobe Bryant in there as well. Chris Bosh is going to be eligible. Guys, I mean, we expected to see Kobe, Tim, and Kevin Garnett 3 across, and it was going to be potentially the greatest Hall of Fame class ever. What do you think now from this group?
It is one of the greatest Hall of Fames ever, and it will certainly be one that we remember. That night in Springfield, which is coming up in September, will certainly be more emotional.
Yeah,
in Kobe's physical absence. I remember, I think it was 2010, a class with Michael Jordan, John Stockton, David Robinson, and Jerry Sloan, I think, if memory serves me. And that was just like, wow. And sometimes you get these classes that are just glittering.
Yeah.
And this is one of them.
Absolutely. I'm going to miss we're not going to get to see Kobe's speech.
Listen, I haven't been back since I was inducted, and I was really looking forward to
We were talking about going back for that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And we know Kobe would have probably put together one of the best speeches of all time.
Yes.
Because he's going to go study everybody else's speech. Make sure he just goes to the top.
And make sure his speech would have been better. Well, I don't know what the Hall of Fame's plans are for his induction. I hope we get to see someone either from his family or someone close to him speak on his behalf. And I don't know, the way Kobe was, it's possible he already had that written. So
I was about to say that.
we will find out. All love there. Up next, guess who's here in the crowd? Oh, yes, Heat's all-star forward, Bam Adebayo is here. He is going to be talking about his breakout season, how far the Heat can go this year. Bam is a lot of fun.
this notion of turning a ballroom into the United Center